Hello everyone, my name is Kane with MyBadges.com. I'm creating a tutorial today to show you how to use our event badge templates to create artwork within Adobe Illustrator. I'll also be showing you how to create your own artboard here in case you don't have our templates. I'll show you some hotkeys to help with your workflow and some tips and tricks to create some standout event badge artwork. Alright, let's get into it. You're going to start by opening up your Adobe Illustrator, and then you're going to go File and New to create a new artboard or new document. So we'll start by naming our project here. Let's call it Event Badge Artwork. The event badges we'll be designing are going to be 4 inches by 6 inches. We'll go with vertical orientation, but you can also choose horizontal if that's what you're ordering. So these are 4 inches wide by 6 inches high. We're going to do 2 artboards for front and back, and then we're going to add an 1/8 of an inch bleed here, so 0.125 of an inch, that's 1/8 of an inch. You could do 1/4 inch if you wanted, but we only require 1/8 of an inch for the bleed. Our color mode we'll set to CMYK. Make sure that you're not creating your artwork under RGB, because RGB is for digital artwork to be used on computer screens or TV screens. We cannot use those specific colors for print. We're limited to the CMYK color space. Raster effects we're going to leave at 300 ppi, which stands for points per inch, or it might say DPI for dots per inch. This will make your raster artwork or photographic artwork the highest quality possible. And then we're going to go to create. So we have 2 artboards here. I like to space them apart a little bit so we have a bit more room. You can do that by clicking Document Setup and then going Edit Artboards. You can also resize your artboards at the top here or create a new artboard by just clicking and dragging to freehand one.
So let's go over some hotkeys that will help you with your workflow to speed things up a little bit for you while you're creating your artwork here. I'm just going to go through a couple of the ones that I use the most. There are tons and tons and tons of hotkeys you can use within Illustrator, but these are just the ones that I use the most for any sort of simple artwork creation. The first one that I use is spacebar. If you just hold spacebar, it'll bring up your hand tool. Notice the little hand I have there, and then I can click and drag around my artwork as needed. And then if I let go of the spacebar tool, I'm back to my selection tool. The next tool I'll show you is the zoom in and zoom out. So if you hold Control and spacebar, that'll bring up your magnifying glass there, and you can either click to zoom in, or you can use your wheel on your mouse to zoom in and out, or you can just click and drag. Now, if your graphics capabilities aren't very strong, you may not be able to click and drag to zoom in and out. There's an option within Illustrator options that you can turn on and off to make that possible, but we won't get into that right now. And to zoom out, it works the same way as zoom in. The hotkeys are Control Alt Spacebar, and you can click and drag, or use your mouse wheel. So very, very similar to zoom in. The tool you'll end up using the most is the selection tool. It's the black arrow, and the direct selection tool here, which is the white arrow. The selection tool, the black arrow, selects and moves entire objects or groups. So this is a whole grouped object here, so you can move them all together. The direct selection tool will grab components out of your grouped selection here, so you can move them around as need be. But we'll put that all back there. You can quickly pull up the selection tool by hitting the V key. So that brings up the black cursor, and you can bring up the direct selection tool by hitting the A key, which brings up the white cursor. Another tool that will be super handy for you is the undo and redo tools. So since this is all, none of this is grouped right now, but if I were to just scramble this and move it all around, and and then I decided, oh no, I actually didn't want to do that, I can hit Control Z and continue to hit Control Z until it's back to normal. If you decided, hey, I like that jumbled mess of artwork, you can also hit Control Shift Z to bring everything back to where you had it. But we'll bring the logo back to its original state here. The next tool we'll be using is the Type tool, which is the little T on your toolbar over here. You can select the button here that has the T on it, or you can simply just hit the letter T on your keyboard. And that'll allow you to make a text box here, which you can control at the top here. You can do center, align center, you can do right justified or left justified. You can change the font style, so you can change the font type, the font style, and the font size from the drop-down bars here. You can also use this to align different things. This align area type at the top here will allow you to have your text in the top, center, or the bottom of your text box here. But we won't really get into that today. We're just going to keep it simple. The next tool we'll go into is the Shape tool, which is this little square over here. You can make a shape by just hitting the M button on your keyboard, clicking and dragging. Now I have square selected here, or rectangle selected, but if you right click you can also make a rounded rectangle, a circle, or an ellipse, a polygon, a star, or a flare. I've never used flare, but we'll use rectangle the most today. If you also have this selected, you can just click on your screen and you can tell it the exact size you want your square to be. So let's say we want it to be 2.5 inches by 8 inches. Bam, we've got our 2.5 inch by 8 inch object here. The next tool that may come in handy for you is the eyedropper tool, which you can hit I on your keyboard to bring up. The way the eyedropper tool works is using your direct selection cursor. Let's say you wanted to change this text here to this specific gold. You can go ahead and click what you want to change color, pull up your eyedropper tool, and click the color you want, and it's all been changed over. Easy enough. I'm going to Control Z that to bring it back to normal. And that concludes our hotkeys. Feel free to rewind and rewatch if you missed anything, but let's dive into creating some badge artwork. So let's go ahead and start our badge design here. I'm going to keep it fairly simple today, just have solid color backgrounds, but we'll make it look nice. So I have my logo here that you may have noticed from the beginning of the video. I just got this off of vectz.com. It's a common free vector artwork website. So you can go on there and search anything you'd like to find any sort of logos like this or any components to use in your vector artwork. So let's start here by creating the background. So I'm going to use the Shape tool here. And I'm going to start at the edge of the bleed here and bring it all the way down. I can check and see this is 6.25 inches by 4.25 inches, which is the exact size we need for our artwork and the bleed. The bleed is the red line here, and this red line here, and then the edge of our badge or the edge of our artwork would be right here. So anything within these lines here will be trimmed off as excess. So there is our background. I'm going to make the background, I'm going to do black. Let's do black for the background. It kind of matches the logo here. And then I'm going to drop my logo into the artwork here, and you'll notice that it's going behind the new shape that I've just created. So you can fix that by just right-clicking, going down here to Arrange, and bringing to front. So that brings your logo to the front. You can drop it in your artwork here. And if you want to make sure that it's perfectly centered, you can click on your logo And these tools up here will help you with aligning anything. So I'm going to go horizontal align center. It looks like it was already horizontally aligned, so we're going to leave that there. If you want to step it up a notch, what you can also do is use a photo as the background. It's very easy. So all you'll do is position your photo where you want it to show. So obviously all of this is going to be cut off, but I've positioned my photo. I kind of want the mountain top to be right here. I want the sky up here for a bit of depth. And then what we can do is I'm going to create a shape over top of this photo here. And we're going to do what's called a clipping mask. So you'll select the shape you just created, you'll select the photo, and then you're going to right click and go make clipping mask. So that makes it the perfect size to fit for your artwork, and then you can go ahead and finish up your project. But let's just stick with the black background for now. So I've got my black background here, I've got my logo on top, we have centered it, awesome. Now for the back, I kind of want to do something that's going to contrast the gold here. So I'm going to go with this off-white cream color. I think it looks kind of nice. Now we're going to go ahead and add in our text, or our placeholder text. So this placeholder text we'll be using for first name, last name, company, title, or any other data you want on your badges. So I'm going to go ahead and create a text box here. And the default is black for text, so you're not going to be able to see it, but I'm just going to change that to white because it's a nice contrast on the black background. So I'm just going to write in here, I don't want all caps, so I'm just going to go first name. And we're going to use the paragraph tool up here to center all of this. And then I'm going to change the font size to, let's try 60, that's too big. Let's try maybe 45, still slightly too big, maybe a 36. That looks okay. And I'm going to change my font here to Arial. Everyone knows Arial. But we're going to go with Arial bold for the first name, because I like the first name to stand out. Now, to keep things centered, you can just stretch the outsides of your box here to reach the bleed, and then bring them in a little bit to make sure that it's equidistant from either side. And you want to leave a little bit of space here just in case there's a J or anything that drops down below the line here. Perfect. So now I'm going to make a copy of this. It's the easy way. We'll make a copy of this and bring it down below. So I'm going to hold Alt, I'm going to click first name, and I'm going to hold Shift, and I'm going to drag that down. And that creates an exact copy of what I've just created here. And then I'm going to label this last name. Perfect. Now for last name, this is just my preference, but I like to do a more narrow font. Sure, let's go with narrow there. I like the first name to kind of stand out, and then I like the last name to be slightly smaller than the first name, because some people do have some fairly long last names. So let's make this 30. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing we did to bring last name down here. We're going to go Alt, click, Shift, drag. We're going to bring that down, and that's going to be our title slot. So any of our job titles are going to go in here. I'm going to shrink this down a little bit because titles can get more lengthy than first name or last name here. So let's just bring the font down to an 18. And then we'll create another copy here. So I'm going to go Alt, click, Shift, drag, and then this is going to be company name. Now company name, I like to bold it up, same as the first name here. It's just my preference. Again, this is all based on what you want your badges to look like.
One thing I should mention when thinking about your titles and your company names is some of them do get very long. Some people do have some really long titles, and there are some really long company names. And when you have a very long company name, it's not all going to fit on a badge from side to side without either shrinking it or dropping it down to another line. So we do have two options for that. We have a shrink to fit option, which essentially just shrinks everything to be on one line. So it would look something like this for any of the longer titles. All badges without a long title would be printed at the regular size here. We also have a text wrap function, which would essentially do this. It would wrap the text down to a second line for any of the longer titles that won't fit on one line. Now, we can only choose one or the other option, so shrink to fit or text wrap. If you have a preference, just make sure to let us know when you place your order.
Now that we have our first name, last name, title, and company in here, let's go ahead and finish up the back. So I have a pre-made schedule that I'm just going to drop in here. There's our event schedule ready to go. We've got some sponsor logos down here. Again, personal preference. You can put sponsor logos anywhere you want. This is just for the sake of demonstration. Now, if your event schedule is located online, maybe on a web page somewhere, there is another option if you don't want to create a schedule like this. It can be time consuming, especially if you don't have the time to do it. So you can go onto the web and find a website to create free QR codes. It's very easy. You would just pop your URL in, generate the QR code, and export as an SVG, an EPS, or a PNG. Those are all the best file types that work best with Illustrator.
From here, all we'll have left to do is outline this non-variable text here. So I'll click on one, I'm going to hold shift, and then I'm going to click on the other one here to select both of them. I'm going to right click, go create outlines, or shift control O. That essentially turns this text into shapes, so we don't have to worry about any font errors when we send this off to the printer. Sometimes what happens is the printer won't have a specific font you've used. In that case, it can cause a delay, which we don't like. So we've done that. Everything else looks good. I might just move everything over here down slightly. Perfect. And then we're going to save. So I'll go File. I'm going to Save As. And we're going to save this as a Adobe Illustrator file, an AI file. This essentially saves it as a layered file, so anybody who opens it up can go on in and make any minor adjustments that may need to be made for print. So we'll go ahead and save that as a MyBadges tutorial final. Yes. So that brings up this dialog box here. You shouldn't have to change anything. However, if you've brought any images in for use in creating your badge artwork, you may have to click the Include Linked Files. This essentially just links any of the images that you've brought in to your file you're saving, so you won't have any issues with the files not being there when you send it off to the printer. So if this checkbox is here, just check it just in case. Can't hurt. If it's grayed out, it just means you don't have any files to link. So we'll go OK. That will go ahead and save, and we're good.
Now, if you'll be using one of the templates that we've sent over, it's essentially the same thing as we've just gone through. The only difference would be that the artboards are pre-sized out for you, and they come with these overlays, a double slot and a single slot, so you can lay that on top of your badge artwork, just to make sure any important components of your artwork aren't going to get lopped off by the slots. And when you're done using them, you can just delete the guides and send the artwork off to us, and you're ready to go. Thanks so much, guys. We appreciate you. If you have any questions, please feel free to give us a call here or send us an email to sales@mybadges.com. Always a pleasure. I hope this was really useful for you guys, and I can't wait to see your artwork. Take care.